of my work as well as interact with the participants. So the title of my session will be Design and Simulation of Model-Based Control Strategies for Industrial Processes. So there are some terms here in the title which may not be familiar with everyone in the audience. So some MTech students are also there who are students of NIT Patna. So they would have gone through some process control course, and if you are someone from other domain, then also you can grab something from this session, because I have made it as basic as possible. And I have also nicely blended it with some textbook material as well as material from some research paper. And I have also planned this particular session such that we will have some lab demonstration using uh, MATLAB and Simulink, in which we will be simulating some of the design that we are presenting here, so that we can see how this particular design will work if we apply it on some real life plant or process. So to begin with, this is the outline of my talk. So first of all, I would give a brief overview about model-based controller design and what are the basic steps involved in model-based controller design. And then I will discuss about the challenges that are commonly encountered in controlling industrial processes. So there are various challenges in the sense that you have to achieve efficient disturbance rejection, and your controller should be capable of tracking the set point, and then obviously there will be noise that will be coming into picture. So how robust is your controller to tackle this noise, and how robust is your controller to tackle if the model that you have estimated is not matching with the actual plant dynamics. So after all, this is a model-based design. So a lot of things depend on the model. So if at all there is a mismatch between the plant and the model, that is again going to pose some challenges into the uh, design. And then we will also discuss about the different type of industrial processes. So mainly I will be focusing on three types of industrial processes: stable, unstable, and integrating type. Of course, we have other type of processes as well, but this is a very broad classification. So I'll be discussing about some stable processes, and some integrating processes, and some unstable processes as well. And in that process, I will also put before you some of the practical examples so that you can relate with some things that are in real life, like whether it is an unstable process, or whether it is an integrating process, or whether it is a stable process. Okay, and then not just being stable, unstable, or integrating. So most of these industrial processes, so they are associated with the delay. So this delay, it even poses more challenges, and even it creates more constraints into the design. In fact, if you operate that plant in closed loop, and if that plant dynamics is having error, so it is going to make the response or the plant output to become unstable. So all these difficulties are there. And then I will also discuss about some common controller design techniques. So when I say controller design techniques, so there are lots and lots of controller design techniques that are already proposed in the literature, and then things are being presently people are working on. But I will be limiting my discussion with mainly two or three controller design techniques. So I will not present the things as it is in the literature. I would have simplified it considering the mixed audience that we are having, so that all the steps of the design will be clear to you. And then I will also discuss some various control structures. So if you had gone through the basic control system course, most of the problems that you would have solved would be based on the unity feedback system. And then you would have adjusted some gain K so that your system, your closed loop system meets a certain design requirement or a given design specification. But oftentimes just adjusting this K does not meet or just adjusting the gain will not help your system to meet all the requirements. So we need some additional stuff over there. So what are the various modifications that has been done to the unity feedback structure? So some of them we will be looking into, not everything. So we will try to cover at least 2 to 3 various control structures or various modifications that has been done to the unity feedback scheme. And then we will try to simulate the design that we will be discussing in the previous slides. So we will be simulating that using MATLAB Simulink. And then when it comes to design, two things are very important. One is the performance and robustness. So when I say performance, it means you would have come across some performance measures in your undergraduate courses as well, like settling time. So if you see the response of a system, you want the settling time of the system to be as less as possible. And suppose if you look at the transient response of the system, you want the overshoot to be as less as possible. And then if you look at the error matrices like integral of absolute error, integral of squared error. So the error is basically the difference between the desired set point and the control variable or the response. So the difference between these two is the error. So from that error, we are computing different performance measures like IAE, IAC, integral of absolute error and integral of squared error. And we want these performance measures to be as less as possible. And the performance is one thing and robustness is another thing. So as I said, what we are going to discuss today is a model-based controller design techniques. So all the design that we are doing is based on a particular model of a plant, based on a particular mathematical model of the plant. As Dr. Ahmed Ali also mentioned in yesterday's presentation during his talk, he also pointed out the importance of robustness. So I would like to reiterate whatever he had said. So there will be obviously a mismatch between the actual plant dynamics and the model which you are using to obtain the plant controller parameters. So therefore, this robustness should also be taken into consideration so that in the simulation, we must be able to check whether the design that you have done will fare even when there is a mismatch between the actual plant dynamics and the model that you have estimated or the model that you have used to obtain the controller parameters. And then my talk won't be complete unless I talk about the recent research trends, because that's what this FDP is all about. So I would give at least a couple of directions which I have come across in my limited knowledge, in which people are actually proceeding in this particular domain. And also I will put before you some of the recent literature that has been reported or that has been published in this particular domain. So this is all about the outline. So let me briefly discuss about the model-based controller design process. So what are the basic steps involved here? So as I said, as the name implies, the mathematical model plays a very vital role. So that is where everything starts. So first of all, we need to obtain the mathematical model of the plant. Suppose if you are having a good undergraduate laboratory in your institutions, if you have some instruments in your control lab, maybe from feedback or Quanser, let's say an inverted pendulum, or let's say a magnetic levitation system. So there they would have given some sort of software through which you will be giving a known input to the plant, Okay, the known input will be given to the plant, and the output that is coming from the plant will be measured. And based on that input output data, so they would have designed the software such that you will be able to estimate the mathematical model of the system. And then using that particular mathematical model, you will be designing the controller. Okay, so the first step will be to obtain the plant model, and this is not the only way to obtain the plant model. And of course, in case if you go through the literature, or if you are someone who is working in model estimation or model identification, so this is again a separate domain. But my focus will be mostly on the controller design and the simulation, which are the next two steps which I have shown in this flowchart. So what are the things involved in controller design? Once the model is available, we come to the controller design part. So in which we will be analyzing the open loop characteristics of the plan, which means without feedback, let's say we are placing the plan in the open loop, how will it behave? So that has to be analyzed, and then we have to select the controller structure, and we have to select the coefficients. So we have to select which type of control structure are we going to use. Let's say depending on our application, are we going to use a delay compensator, or we okay with the simple unity feedback structure, or do we require a double loop structure, or do we require some other advanced control structures? So that has to be decided, and then we should also see what are the how this particular system will behave in the closed loop. So first of all, the open loop characteristics are analyzed, and then the closed loop characteristics are analyzed. So all this are involved in the controller design process. The main thing, if I want to summarize whatever I have said under controller design, so it's nothing but, let's say you have a EAD controller, you have three parameters, KP, KI, and KD. And we need to obtain this KP, KI, and KD in terms of the plant model parameters. So that is this controller design is all about. Okay, so how to obtain the parameters of the controller, or how to design the controller, and then comes the simulation part. So now my design is ready. I don't know how my design is going to work in real life, but it will be very much risky if I straight away go for the prototyping, skipping the simulation, because oftentimes that may be disastrous. So better take a safer path, go for simulation, and check how your design is working. We will simulate all the real world constraints. Let's say we will be giving a set point, we will be giving some sort of disturbance. As the disturbance will be something that will cause the controlled variable to deviate from the set point. So when I say disturbance, you must uh, uh, try to imagine what I am saying. Let us say you are trying to control the temperature of a room. Okay, you are trying to control the temperature of the room, and somebody is leaving a window open. So what happens? The external heat or chillness, whatever, it enters the room through the window. That will try to deviate the room temperature from the desired value. So this is one example for disturbance. So we'll simulate this, something that will push the controlled variable away from the desired value. So that is one example for disturbance. And then noise. So let us say you are trying to measure the level of liquid in a boiler. So whenever a liquid is boiling, what happens? There will be some bubbles that will happening at the surface of the liquid. So when that liquid is boiling, there will be bubbles at the surface of the liquid. So at times your sensor might be prone to some kind of noise, because that level is there, is kind of fluctuating. So actually the water level is not changing due to the bubbles that are generated due to that heating process. It behaves like a as if the controlled variable is fluctuating slightly. So this is an example for noise. There can be also noise associated with the sensor. So all these things we have to consider during the simulation. And one more thing that we should not forget is, we have to, whenever we do a design, we have to introduce some kind of perturbation into the plant model. Let us say if my plant model is having a gain 1, k is equal to 1. So then I will, in the simulation, I will introduce k is equal to 1.1. Let's say a 10% perturbation to that value k, so that I can see how my design will work. Is my design robust or not? So will my design still work when k is perturbed by 10%? So all this I have to check in the simulation. Only then I will be going to the final prototyping. So therefore, in this session, my concentration will be mostly on the controller design and simulation. So some of the terms that I have put here may not be familiar with you unless you are not be familiar to you unless you are from the chemical engineering background, but still you can relate with some of the terminology. So when do I call process to be unstable? Mathematically speaking, suppose if you have at least one pole in the right half of the S-plane, so then we can call that system to be unstable. So what are the examples of an unstable system? Let's say you have heating boilers or batch chemical reactors and isothermal continuously stirred tank reactors. So these are some of the commonly encountered examples of unstable processes. And then integrating processes. Again, mathematically, integrating processes means it has at least one pole at the origin of the S-plane. So then we call it as integrating process. So at least a pole at the right hand of the S-plane makes it unstable, but having a pole, at least one pole at the origin of the S-plane, we call it as an integrating process. But of course, there can be more than one pole at the origin as well. So we are going to look at some of the different integrating processes in the subsequent slides. So these are some of the examples of integrating processes like paper drum dryer cams and boiler steam drum. And another very interesting example that you can come across for integrating processes is the level control. The level control system, let's say if you have a pump attached at the outlet. So I have the slides for that. In the upcoming slides, I will show that so that you can understand what this integrating system is all about. And this is difficult to control. Why is it difficult to control? Because as I said, in the unstable process, it has a pole at the right half of the S-plane, and which is going to make the response unstable. And then we have this integrating process in which you have the pole at the origin. And not only that, in addition to that, there will be also dead time associated with the process. So in the simulation, I will be showing how this dead time is going to affect the response. And then we also have inverse response. So what happens, let's say you want the control variable to move from 0 to 1. But when you look at the response, let's say the control variable is actually moving from 0 to minus 0.05 or minus 0.01, and then slowly it is again reaching 0 and then again going to 1. So this is one example for inverse response. So I don't want the control variable to change in this opposite direction, but is that due to the dynamics of the process itself. Let's say if the process has a 0, a right half 0, so due to the nature of that particular 0, you will see that there is a inverse response in the process. And I have also given some examples for the inverse response process. And the challenges associated with all this and whatever I have put in this slide, I have also discussed the same in one of the recent article, new PIPD control design strategy for industrial unstable and integrating process. It's freely available for download. If you want, you can refer this article for further details. So these are some of the commonly encountered industrial processes. So now let's leave aside those concepts, and now we'll be talking about only the mathematics part. So here in the first row, you find two transfer function, k e raised to minus theta s by tau s plus 1, and then k e raised to minus theta s by tau 1 s plus 1 and tau 2 s plus 1. So this is a first order process, and the right hand side one is a second order process. And in addition to that, you also have a delay theta. Okay. So I will call this particular plant model as a first order plus time delay. So that's why the abbreviation FOPTD, first order plus time delay. and in the second case, it is second order plus time delay. So that's why this abbreviation SOPTD. And similarly, come to the second row. So here it is GP of S equal to K e raised to minus theta S. As I said, whenever you have at least one pole at the origin of the S plane, so then we call that particular process to be an integrating process. So here, if you look at the process K e raised to minus theta S by S, and here K e raised to minus theta S by S into tau S plus 1. And similarly, here you have a S square term in the denominator, which means two poles at the origin of the S plane. So in addition to that, we have also delay in all the three. So how do I call this process? It is first order integral plus time delay, and then this is a second order integral plus time delay, and then this is a double integral plus time delay because it has two 1 by s terms. So if you take the Laplace transform of integral, you get 1 by s. Okay, so that's why we call this type of processes as integrating process, and this is a double integral because it has 1 by s into 1 by s. So it is double integral process. So in addition to that, you may also come across unstable process. Unstable process in which you have one or more poles at the right half of the S plane. So here this is a first order unstable process, of course with dead time. And then you have a second order unstable process in which you have one pole at the origin and the other pole is at the right half of the S plane. Again, this is again a very challenging process to control. And then you also have a second order processes, let's say second order processes with maybe one or maybe two, or maybe one or maybe two poles at the right half of the S plane. So both are possible. And it is, don't think that we have to always stick to a particular plan model because in certain cases we may have to approximate the plan model. So let us say you have estimated the plant model and you are getting a second order integral plus time delay plant model. Okay, you are getting a second order integral plus time delay, but you are having a tuning rule or a design technique which will work only for IPTD. So in that case, you have to go for model reduction. Okay, so in the same way, you have estimated a second order unstable process transfer function, but the tuning rule that you are having, let's say it works only for first order. So in that case, you may have to go for approximation. So you have to approximate the second order model with the first order models, and there are some separate literature for that. So I'm not getting into that particular topic. So in addition to the poles at the origin, or in addition to the poles at the right half of the S plane, we may also have delay. So I'm sorry, I think there was some interruption. So that can any one of you confirm whether you were whether I was audible to you when I was discussing all this?
Yes, sir, you were audible.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. In between, yeah, in between there was a interruption. Sorry.
only for a minute,
Okay,
sir,
okay.
not for more than that.
So let us proceed further. So I also told that in addition to the pole at the right half of the S plane and origin, so you may also come across processes in which there is a zero at the right half of the S plane, which will cause inverse response. So I have just given one example here, but it can happen with the other plans that I have shown in the left hand side as well. So this is again a small practical example for industrial processes. Like here, the objective is to, let's say, feed cold oil here, and a fuel gas is applied to this furnace. This cold oil is heated and it is giving hot oil as output. So cold oil is heated to produce hot oil. So where do we get the energy for heating the cold oil? Of course, from the fuel gas. And here, my objective is to control the temperature of this hot oil. So what has been done here? So here a unity feedback system has been employed. So T stands for sensor and TC stands for the temperature controller. Okay, temperature sensor and temperature controller. So based on the temperature of the hot oil, this controller will be actually uh, adjusting the position of this valve, which will eventually adjust the flow of this fuel gas, which will in turn result in the controlling of hot oil temperature. So this is a simple unity feedback structure that has been shown just to make you familiar with some of the terminologies that I will be using in future, because not everyone is from the control engineering domain. So here, what is the controlled variable? Here, my controlled variable is obviously my hot oil temperature. And then what is my manipulated variable? So with how I am controlling the hot oil by actually adjusting the flow of the fuel gas. So this will be my manipulated variable, and this will be my controlled variable. So taking things further, so this is an example for a stable process, and this is an example for unstable process. You would have come across in your laboratories as well. So here you have a magnetic levitation system. In the undergraduate level, many of you would have done this experiment. So in which you have to suspend the position of the metallic ball. So this metallic ball that is here, it has to be suspended here in the air. How it is suspended? With the help of this, by adjusting this magnetic field. Okay, so this particular system, if you estimate the mathematical model of the system, you will get at least a pole at the right half of the S-plane, making the system an unstable system. And then we all know pendulum, but this is an inverted pendulum. Okay, so here this arm of the pendulum has to be maintained in the upright position. The arm of this pendulum has to be maintained in the upright position. So how do we maintain? By adjusting the position of the cart. So at the bottom you have a cart that will move either in the right hand side or left hand side, so that this particular arm will be maintained in the upright position. So this is again another example for unstable process. So therefore you can find several other systems, but I cannot discuss everything. So these are two common examples which you can relate with for unstable system. So let us proceed further. So this is about integrating process. So in integrating process, so this is again a typical example, a level control system, liquid level control system. So here a liquid level is flowing into this tank, and there is a control valve also placed. We can control the position of this valve. So how much this valve can be opened or closed, that can be controlled. So how to get the control input? Of course, we have to first see the level of water in the tank. Of course, that is our control variable, and the level is measured, and then based on that, the control action is initiated. Now, how this particular system becomes integrating type. Whenever there is a flow of whenever the flow of the liquid inside the tank and the flow of liquid outside the tank, if these two rates are same, then there is no problem. But if suddenly one is varying, let us say I am attaching a pump at the outlet of this particular tank, what will happen? Suddenly the liquid level will change, because here the downward flow rate will be the water or the liquid that is flowing outside the tank will be far more greater than the amount of liquid that is actually entering the tank, because I have attached a pump here at the outlet. So in that cases, you will find an abrupt change in the sudden change in the level of the liquid. So there is a continuous change in the liquid level that you will be noticing. So this can happen either whenever there is a difference in the rate of flow of liquid in the inlet or at the outlet. So this is how this particular system behaves as an integrating type system. So as I mentioned in the introduction part itself, so in any control application, so these are the basic requirements. as I said, I gave you an example of disturbance as well, based on a room setup where you are controlling the temperature of a room, and suddenly, let's say somebody opened the window, so that some disturbance is happening, as a result of which your controlled variable y is deviating from the desired value. Okay, so this disturbance has to be rejected. This is not something desirable, so this has to be rejected by the controller, first thing. And then second thing, whatever may be the command or the reference that you are giving here at r, so the y has to follow r. So how y can follow r? Of course, when d is rejected, because d will be actually pushing y away from r. D will be pushing y away from r. So d has to be rejected and r has to be followed. And this disturbance rejection is more important than set point tracking, because in most of the cases, let's say a plant is in operation, and then the production rate of the plant is not going to change that often, but disturbance can happen any at any time. At any instant of time, disturbance can happen. So therefore, whenever you are designing something, it is important to mainly focus on the disturbance rejection. That doesn't mean that set point tracking is not important, but I want to say that the disturbance rejection is more important than set point tracking. And then robustness, of course. Whatever design that you do, whatever controller that you design, will be based on the mathematical model of the process. Okay, the mathematical model of the process. So based on that, you are designing the controller, but this mathematical model will never be accurate. So even in the circumstances, you want your controller to function properly, uh, to fulfill its intention. Okay, so therefore, it is important for the design to be robust. And moreover, the uh, smoothness of the control signal is also very important. Let me go back to the previous example. So do you think this valve can be either opened or closed beyond a certain point? Of course, no. So there will be some limitation, right? So we cannot open this valve beyond a certain point. So to ensure all this, so there should be some limits on the control signal. The control signal can't just keep increasing, or like it cannot vary abruptly. So all these limitations will be there, taking into consideration the actuator that is available between the controller and the process. So we must ensure that the control signal is as smooth as possible. So it is always desirable for the control signal to be as smooth as possible. And this is some of the interesting statistics that I come across in the literature. So this is from this article from Journal of Process Control, which was published in 2010. So this was done by a group of maybe Japanese researchers. So they have analyzed the type of controllers that was used in the chemical process control in Japan. And this is what they say, and I quote, the ratio of applications of PID control, advanced control, and model predictive control is about 100:10:1, meaning the PID control is more widely used than other control techniques or the other type of advanced controllers. So that's what they want to say. So that is one of the reason why even in the today's presentation, I will be focusing more on the conventional PID controllers. But of course, the control structure, different control structures will be discussed. And more than 90% of the controllers even today used in the process industries are of PID type. So, and mostly you will find these PID controllers used in a conventional unity feedback configuration that was shown in the previous slide as well. Okay. So let us proceed further. So these are the common controller design techniques. And now we are actually entering the main part of this session. So where we are going to actually study the controller design techniques. So all this was just to give you a proper background so that you can relate with the terminologies that I am going to present before you. So first is direct synthesis method. So this is one commonly used method. Of course, you will find several literatures using direct synthesis method, and there is not one direct synthesis method. There are several variants of this direct synthesis method that is being proposed, but we will limit our discussion to one of them. Okay, and then internal model control approach. Of course, the very traditional one we will be discussing here, but please be aware that there are several variations that has been proposed to this internal model control, so that it is capable of yielding better performance than the conventional one. And similarly, there is also another common technique that you will come across, that is coefficient matching. Okay, so what do we mean by this coefficient matching? Let me again go back to this particular diagram. So here, let's say you want Y to follow R. Okay, now if I write the closed loop transfer function, just forget about the actuator and the sensor. Take that these two blocks are equal to 1, and this controller is equal to C, and process is equal to P. Okay, so what will be the closed loop transfer function? Cp divided by 1 plus Cp. You all know this. So now you want Y to follow R. So now what I can do, I can expand the numerator as well as the denominator of the closed loop transfer function that I just mentioned, and then I can equate the coefficients of the polynomial, the numerator polynomial and the denominator polynomial, and based on which I can design this controller. That is the coefficient matching technique in a nutshell, but we are not going to discuss about the coefficient matching technique here. I will be instead focusing on the direct synthesis method and the IMC control. And then is the optimization. Of course, you might have come across several optimization algorithms in the literatures, in which you have this error matrix, that is IAE, IAC, and ITAE. There are several other error matrices. So it is desirable to have this integral absolute error, integral squared error, and integral time absolute error to be as less as possible. Okay, so this is optimized. So it is optimized with the help of some algorithms. Let's say particle swarm optimization or genetic algorithm or any other optimization techniques. So there are also several literatures. Some of the recent literatures I have cited here as well. Let us go to the direct synthesis method without wasting much time. So this is very simple to understand. You will find it available in the textbook as well. But several modifications of the same has been proposed in the literature. So let us say I am assuming a stable first order plus time delay transfer function k divided by 1 plus tau s e raised to minus theta s. So where is k? K is nothing but the gain, and tau is the time constant of the system, and theta is the delay. Okay, so I already told you the source of this delay, like where this delay occurs in the plan model and all. So this is stable transfer function. So the first step in direct synthesis method is to assume the desired closed loop transfer function. See, I am going to place a particular controller in the loop, and after placing this controller, what do I want this particular loop to do? So that instruction I am giving in this desired closed loop transfer function, or by specifying the desired closed loop transfer function. After placing the controller in the loop, okay, and how this closed loop Y by R will behave. So I am specifying some transfer function, and I want this particular loop to be designed in such a way that it obeys this particular transfer function, okay, or this particular dynamics. So I am specifying this. This is something that you as the designer is going to specify. And then again, there is no hard and fast rule for specifying this desired closed loop transfer function. But again, it is important for this particular transfer function to be a stable transfer function, because you don't want the response to be unstable, of course. And then what will be the order of this transfer function? Again, if you are trying to design maybe a PID or maybe a higher a controller that is having a higher order transfer function here, so then accordingly you can specify maybe a higher order here. Okay, so but there is no such hard and fast rule that you have to actually stick to only this particular desired closed loop transfer function. Of course, you can even go for e raised to minus theta s by lambda s plus 1 the whole square. Accordingly, the design will change. Okay. And now to make it very simple, I have taken this first order desired closed loop transfer function. And then what will be this y by r? The y by r will be c into g divided by 1 plus c into g. So that will be my actual closed loop transfer function. Now, what I am going to do, I am going to match this desired and the actual closed loop transfer function. So I am substituting this y by r desired in the left hand side of this equation, y by y of s by r of s. So this desired closed loop transfer function I am substituting in the left hand side of this equation, y of s by r of s. So when I do that, and when I further rearrange, if I take c of s in the left hand side and all the remaining terms in the right hand side, I'll be getting this equation which is shown here at the bottom. So this will be nothing but c of s equal to 1 by g of s, y by r desired divided by 1 minus y by r desired. So simple rearranging. If you one intermediate step you'll have to do in between, you will get this equation. Okay. So I have the c of s, which we are going to find out, and all other things are known to us because y by r desired we are specifying, and g of s is nothing but the plant model. So this is known to us. The parameters of the plant model is known to us. So all things in the right hand side is known to us, and unknown thing is the plant, the controller parameter that is in the left hand side. Now, if you substitute this g of s and y by r desired, you will get this particular expression here. And in between that, there is one more step that is very important step, that is Faraday approximation. Okay, so somewhere you will find this time delay in between. So let's say that theta e raised to minus theta s term in the numerator of this y by r desired, and here g of s, it will get cancelled. But here in the denominator, inside this here, if you go for a higher order Faraday approximation, it then, which means that it will approximate the delay much better than a lower order Faraday approximation. And this is something I am telling in a nutshell, but for more details you will get this in this particular literature. Some remarks on Faraday approximation, I have cited it here. So if you are someone who is working on this particular topic, you can refer to this literature. And in doing so, I will get a PI controller transfer function, okay, tau divided by k into lambda plus theta, 1 plus 1 by tau s. So this is a proper PI form. You can see if you compare it to the standard PI form, kp plus 1 plus 1 by ti into s, you will get the expression for kc as well as ti. The PI controller parameters can be obtained in this way. So here you find that the kc is expressed in terms of lambda. So what is lambda? Of course, this lambda comes from this y by r desired, and this lambda is an adjustable parameter. Okay, and what will happen when you adjust lambda? What will happen when you increase lambda? What will happen when you decrease lambda? So that I will be showing in the simulation. Okay, and the same for the same procedure, if you repeat by taking g of s as an integrating process, same steps A to Z. If you repeat by taking g of s equal to k by s e raised to minus theta s, so then you will be getting a proportional controller. You can do it by yourself. You can take the follow the same procedure. Only thing, you take g of s equal to k by s here. So then you will be getting a proportional controller here. Okay. And I will also try to show you the simulation for this very shortly. And one remark I want to make, hold on for a while. The same procedure, it can also be extended for other plant models, and we can also use accordingly. We can choose y by r desired And accordingly, we can also choose a proper Pade approximation. So in fact, many things can be done by using this procedure. This is something very simple that I have put before you. And now that is for a unity feedback structure. And before we go to the first simulation exercise, I would like to present this PI-PD control structure. So this is a double loop control structure. So there are two controllers involved here, C1 and C2. This is the plant and this is the disturbance, and U is nothing but the output of the controller. So what is the role of this C2? The role of this C2 is to stabilize this plant. Let us say this plant P is of unstable or integrating nature. We will first design the parameters of C2 such that it will stabilize the plant. Let us say if the plant has the poles in the right hand side, you will select the parameters of C2 such that you bring the poles to the left hand side. So if you have the poles of P at the origin, let us say you select the parameters of C2 such that you bring those poles to the left hand side. So that if you look at the transfer function of y by r dash, so that particular transfer function will have poles in the left hand side. Somebody's microphone is on, so I would request you to kindly keep it muted. Okay. So once C2 stabilizes P, so it will be very easy for us to design C1 because we will be having a stabilized model y by r dash. So that will help us make it easy for us to design C1. So this is the mathematics related to this particular control structure. So here C1 is a PI controller and C2 is a PD controller. The equation for PI and PD controller is given in equation 1 and 2 here. I have marked as 1 and 2. And then we are going to consider an unstable transfer function. The previous slide I have considered a stable transfer function. So here I have considered an unstable transfer function k by tau s minus 1. It is a pole at the right half of the S plane. And it has also a time delay. And now when I find GA of S, so when I find GA of S, what will I get? So first of all, before we find GA, let us find PT. So PT is nothing but this Y. So listen carefully. So this is Y. I have marked these symbols here, Y and then R dash, Y, R dash. So if I find Y by R dash, what will I get? I will get P divided by 1 plus C2 into P of S. So I came to know that some undergraduate students have also registered for this particular course. So if you have not gone through the basic control system course, so what I am saying may be a little strange for you. So you have to hold on for maybe a couple of more semesters before you are introduced to this concept. But overall, you can have an idea about this topic. Okay. So this is the expression that I am obtaining from the block diagram. So P of S divided by 1 plus C2 of S into P of S. And then I can express this, the overall transfer function y by r, the closed loop transfer function y by r in terms of PT. So if I reduce this entire inner loop with PT, I will be left with only C1 and PT. So in that case, I will get the closed loop transfer function as C1 into PT divided by 1 plus C1 into PT. Now, let us design the inner loop controller first, and then we will come to the outer loop. So, the inner loop, as I told, C2 is a PD controller, and P is an unstable process. Equation 3 shows the transfer function of it. And then take into consideration this equation number 5, which is nothing but the transfer function y by r dash. Okay, so what I want to do is that if you look at this transfer function given in equation number 5, whatever you have here in the denominator, 1 plus C2 into P of S, 1 plus C2 into P of S is nothing but the characteristic equation. Okay, so which characterizes the behavior of this particular loop. So I want that the roots of this characteristic equation to obey the Routh-Harvey stability criteria. So I want the roots of this characteristic equation to obey Routh-Harvey stability criteria. So with that in mind, I am proceeding. So I am finding PT. I am substituting for P of S. I know what is P of S given in equation 3, and I know what is C2, that is given in equation 2. So I am substituting this equation 3 and equation 2 in equation number 5. So that will give me equation number 6. Okay, so then I am choosing this TD equal to 0.5 theta. So when I choose TD equal to 0.5 theta, these two terms will get cancelled. TD 1 plus TDS and 0.5 1 plus 0.5 theta S will get cancelled. Okay, so that will give me this particular transfer function PTFS equal to K e raised to minus theta S divided by tau minus 0.5 Kp K theta into S plus Kp K minus 1. Fine. So I have got this particular transfer function, and now I have to choose Kp. I have to choose Kp such that I have the roots of this characteristic equation in the right half of the S plane. So when will it become? When it will go to the right hand side? Obviously, only when this tau is greater than 0.5 Kp K theta, and when Kp K is greater than 1. These are the two conditions that has to be satisfied if I want this particular transfer function to be stable. Okay, I repeat my statement. So when tau is greater than 0.5 Kp K into theta, and when Kp into K is greater than 1, only then I will have this transfer function to be stable. Okay, so when you analyze in that direction, this will be the range that you will be getting for Kp. So this is a range. I would suppose in the design, in the simulation that we will be doing, I will be taking the particular value of Kp in this way. Okay, so I am trying to find the square root of the minimum and the maximum. So I think we call this as geometrical mean. You can cross check whatever I am saying. Okay? So this is the minimum value of Kp, and this is the maximum value of Kp. So you can find the square root of this Kp min and Kp max. So that will give you some value in between. We will be choosing this for our simulation. Okay, and then if you want to repeat the same procedure that I have shown here in this slide as well as this slide, if with the P of S equal to K e raised to minus theta S by S integrating process. In fact, I will show you the simulation for both unstable process and integrating process. So if you want to, use this design the PIPD control structure for this type of plan model, and if you proceed on these lines, so this will be the range or Kp that you will be getting, and TD will be obviously 0.5 theta as it is given here, and then from this you can get a particular value of Kp. So in fact, this particular setting I have taken from a paper. I have not cited it here. Maybe when I send the slide to you, I will do it. So it is Kp is equal to 0.2. I am taking something in between. Okay, so that I get something in between this range. Of course, you can find a optimum value in this range, but for our simulation, I am just taking something in this range, which will give a satisfactory closed loop performance. Now, when I substitute this Kp, when I substitute this Td in this equation, I will get a stabilized plant model. Okay, so earlier this pole was there in the right hand side. Now, if you look at the pole of PT of S, it is in the left hand side. So hence I have stabilized the plant model. So now I have a stable plant model. Now I'll going to repeat something very familiar to you, which was discussed. So here again, if you look at this transfer function, K by 1 plus tau S, and what we have got here, K dash e raised to minus theta S by tau dash S plus 1, both are same. So which means that I can use the same procedure, whatever I have discussed here, the same procedure I can use to design the controller in the outer loop C1. Okay, so because Y by R dash has become stable, so now I can use the same procedure to design C1. So this is what I have done. I am not going to repeat this again because these are the same steps. Whatever I have given here in this slide is repeated here. Okay. The design of C1 I am not repeating. So let us go to the simulation. So kindly confirm whether my MATLAB screen is visible. Is my MATLAB screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So this is the first exercise. So I have taken a integrating plus time delay, first order integral plus time delay process. In fact, this is actually a heat exchange process. So I have taken this from the literature. This particular plant model physically means something. So if you want more details of this, kindly read this particular literature. I have given the link as well. Performed by a group of researchers in NIT Rourkela. So it's a heat exchange process, integral plus time delay. Okay, so you have K. K is how much? 0.002 and theta is 3. And what you need to do is you need to design the PIPD controller settings as per the details that are given in slide number 13, 14 and 15. So 13, 14 and 15 is nothing but this is 13, slide number 13 we have discussed. 14 we have discussed and 15 we have discussed. Okay, so I'll be writing a small MATLAB code based on this slides 13, 14 and 15, and I'll be running that code. So when I run that code, I will get this value of Kc, Ta, and I will also get the value of Kp, and I will also get the value of Td. Fine. So then I will be using the MATLAB Simulink platform to obtain the closed loop response. So this is what I am going to do. So please have a look at this exercise task that I have given. So first of all, the plan model is given. You can obtain the proportional controller. Obviously, if you go to the slide number 12, I think this is slide number 12. And I told you that the same procedure can be also repeated for integrating process. Okay. And if you repeat the same procedure for integrating process, you will get a proportional controller Kc whose gain will be 1 by k into lambda plus theta. Okay. And now we will be comparing the response that is obtained from this proportional controller and the PIPD controller. Okay, we will be comparing both the responses. Let us go to the MATLAB code first of all. So this is the plant model. K is given, theta is given, and this is the settings of the proportional controller. So these are the settings. 1 divided by k lambda plus theta I have given here. 1 divided by k lambda plus theta. Similarly, the PD controller settings, whatever I have obtained there in the derivation, whatever you see here, see Td equal to 0.5 theta and then Kp in this range, I have given there in the code. Similarly, these equations also I have given there in the code for Kc and Ta. So I am running this code. That will give me the settings, the desired controller settings. So this is the proportional controller settings if you use the simple direct synthesis method, and these 4 are the settings that if you that is obtained if you use the PIPD control structure. Okay, so both settings are there. Now we are going to use the settings in the Simulink platform. So let me open the simulation that I have already done. Okay, so it will look little weird for you. I will go step by step. So what I have done initially, this is your plan model, right? So this is your plan model 0.002 by S, and this is the time delay. So how to get the blocks? If you are very new to this Simulink platform, you can go to this library. So here you will get all the blocks. Suppose if you go under continuous, you will get this block for integration, and you will get the block for transfer function, which I have used here. And then you will also get the block for transport delay, which I have used here. Fine. And if you go to the commonly used block, then you will get this summation block, whatever I have used here, this summation block. So everything you can get here in the library. Okay. So and then you can go to the sources. Suppose if you want to get the step input, you will get it here. Step input. Just add, it will get added here, and then you can connect all these different blocks together and you can use it. So please, you can even if you are not able to parallelly do, because it's just a 1.5 hour session, if we stop in each and every point, then the talk won't be complete. So therefore the video is recorded. Even if you are not able to do with me parallelly, you can later watch the video. I will also share you all whatever simulation that I am showing to you. The code as well I will share, and then you can practice it further. Okay. So the step input is given. So I am giving a step input. Let's say step time is 50. To make it much more simple for you, the step time is 0 and the initial value is 0, final value is 1. It's a simple unit step function. And just look at the response. I am running the simulation and then look at the response. See, it's the open loop system. The open loop system, and this is how the integrating process will behave in the open loop. Okay. Now forget about this. Let us try to use it in the closed loop. The same process, I have actually introduced a feedback loop. So I have introduced a feedback loop. So how to get the summation block? You can get it here in the from the commonly used blocks. So here is the summation block. You can use it in your simulation, add it here, and then you can modify accordingly. So by default, it will be plus plus, and you can make it plus minus so that the negative feedback can be given. So now again, I am running. I already run the simulation. Look at the output in the closed loop. Again, it is unstable. Okay, I want this to settle at 1, but that has not happened. It is continuously increasing. Okay. And now what I have done, I have first of all designed the proportional controller using the direct synthesis method. So direct synthesis method I have already discussed in front of you. So if I use this proportional controller settings, Kc equal to 1 by k lambda plus theta. So in the MATLAB code, I have got how much? 83.33. So I have constructing a feedback loop with this proportional controller here. And then I am also applying some disturbance. Okay, I am applying some disturbance here. At 50 seconds, the simulation will be running for 100 seconds, and at the end of 50 seconds, I am applying a disturbance. Okay, a step input I am applying. So, what is the use of this disturbance? This, in fact, disturbance does not have any use. In fact, it will push the controlled variable away from the set point. So, I have introduced a disturbance in this way. Then I have placed this controller. Now, when I run this simulation, what is happening? So, are you happy with this output? Is there any problem? Can any one of you say you are noticing some problem here? So, is it meeting my requirement? So, I have given a step input of maybe step size 1. I will show the set point. This is my set point. So, 0, 1. So, final value is what? 1. But what is the final value that I am getting here? Something more than 1. So, therefore, there is a steady state error that is involved. Now, let me try to simulate the PIPD control structure. So, at the bottom, I have simulated the PIPD control structure. So, here, so this is the plan transfer function, and then I have connected this PD controller. So this is the proportional part Kp. So this Kp is multiplied with 1 plus Td. So whenever you simulate a derivative controller, you have to simulate it with the derivative filter. So here I have used a derivative filter because only then it will become a proper transfer function. Otherwise, you will have a numerator of the transfer function higher than the denominator. Okay, so you have to introduce this derivative filter. So practically, this derivative filter will be 0.1 or 0.2 times the TD. So of course, the choice of this derivative filter, you will, which it has some effect when there is some measurement noise. So suppose at this particular point you are considering some noise, and then you try to adjust this value of TD, you will try to you will understand what is the significance of this derivative filter. Okay, so if time permits, we will do it. Otherwise, you can try it. So probably here you can add some noise using this summation block, and then you can try to plot the response for different values of the derivative filter. Let's say 0.2, 0.5, 0.6, and see how the response varies. Fine. So this is the PI/PD control structure. It's the PD part and this is the PI part. So this is the proportional KC, and this will be my PI, and this will be my KP. I'm using the same notations that I have used in the derivation so that you will be able to relate. This is the T. So now I am running the simulation. So now is my problem solved or not? So earlier there was a steady state error, and now the steady state error has been removed. And now I will show you both the response at a time so that you will be able to see the difference. So the yellow one is for the simple proportional controller in the unity feedback configuration. And the pink one is for the PI/PD control structure. So you can notice the difference. So here the response is fast, and then here the yellow one, the disturbance is not rejecting. Actually, it is introducing a steady state error. But here the disturbance is rejected, and the controlled variable returns back to the desired value, that is the set point. So set point is 1. So in spite of the disturbance, it is tracking the set point. Now let us try to do the same for an unstable process. Same procedure. So whatever I have shown here, let us also do for unstable process. We close all the unnecessary things. So I won't repeat all this because it's the same procedure. I have explained how I have obtained these expressions. Okay, I have explained everything in the slides. So I have putting this in the form of a code. Running this code to get the PI/PD settings. Okay, so these are the PI/PD settings. So this is for the PD part and this is for the PI part. And then I am going to use the settings in the simulation. So what plan model has been taken? So this has actually brought me to the second exercise in the simulation. So the second exercise is this. So an unstable plant model has been taken, fine. And using the procedure that is described in the previous slides, you have to obtain the PI and PD set. You can also have a nonlinear model of this, but due to the timing, to the shortage in timing, I am just skipping the step 3. I will just to show you the response for this step 2. Okay, so for this plant model, I have computed the controller parameters, and I am performing the simulation for this unstable plant model. And what happens is that this P and this KP and TD, KP and TD, so this KC and this TI. Okay, so this KP and TD will be pushing this pole or shifting this pole from the right hand side to the left hand side, so that if you look at the transfer function of y divided by r dash, you will have a stable transfer function for which this PI controller is tuned. Fine. So I am running the simulation. So this is the output that I am getting. So here I have given the set point as 5. I have given the set point as 5, and I have introduced a disturbance of magnitude 0.4 at the end of 500 seconds. The simulation will be running for a total of 1000 seconds. All these timings you will be varying based on your requirement. So there is nothing fixed that you have to use 1000 seconds and this and that. So it is reaching the set point, and then at the end of 500 seconds, you are seeing the disturbance, and you will notice that the response is beginning little late. So do you know why this is beginning little late? That is because of the time delay that is involved. So here you are having a time delay in this process of 20 seconds. So that is the reason why this graph is actually beginning after 20 seconds. So it's starting to respond after 20 seconds due to the presence of that delay. Then let me proceed further with the IMC technique. So this is the internal model control scheme. So it's the internal model control scheme where a model of the plant will be there. So based on the model of this plant, we'll be designing this controller GC. So let's say GP may be the actual system that you are trying to control. So what I am doing, so I am connecting, so I am having a mathematical model of this particular process. Now based on this GM, I am designing GC. So how to design that? Take a look at these steps. So assume a stable plant transfer function for which I will be showing the displaying the procedure in front of you. So this is the stable transfer function, stable first order plus time delay. Now I am splitting this transfer function into inverting part and non-inverting part. So what is the inverting part? So in the inverting part, I will have the delay-free part. The inverting part I will have the delay-free part of GP, and the non-inverting part I will have the time delay as well as the right half plane 0. So fortunately in this transfer function there is no right half plane zeros. So the only GM plus component will be what? It will be the e raised to minus theta s, that is the time delay. So what will be the GM minus component? The GM minus component will be the delay free part of GP. The delay free part of GP will be K divided by tau s plus 1. The delay free part of GM. Sorry, it has to be GM. There's a small typo here. Please note it. So therefore, this IMC controller GC of S is nothing but the inverse of this GM minus into M of S. This M of S will be nothing but the IMC filter. So it's up to you to select, just like you select the desired closed loop transfer function in the direct synthesis method. In the case of IMC, you'll have to select this IMC filter accordingly. And of course, the order of the filter also you can select according to your design requirement. So doing so, you will get the IMC controller GCFS. Now let me show you a small simulation for this internal model control. This is our simulation exercise number 3. So simulation exercise number 3. So this is the plant that I have taken 1 by S plus 1 and time delay of 1 second. Very simple transfer function. Now, when I run this in the open loop, what I am getting, you see, whenever there is a disturbance, the disturbance is not rejecting. The disturbance is not getting rejected. And then I am introducing a feedback loop, but there is no controller here. Simply, I am connecting the plant in closed loop. Fine. So, what will be the response in that case? You see, still again it is not reaching the set point. It is not reaching the set point initially, and here also it is not reaching because of the amount of disturbance that I have considered. It has slightly shifted, and it's a mere coincidence that it is reaching here. But if you increase the disturbance further, you will notice that it is not reaching the set point. But here I have done the IMC controller, so you can watch this carefully. So this is how to simulate this IMC control structure. So you have GP and then you have GM. Fine. So GP and GM. So GP is the plant transfer function and GP is the model of the transfer function of this plant. So here I have taken both to be equal. I will also show to you what will happen when there is a mismatch. Okay, so both we are going to see in this simulation itself. So now, as per the method that I have just discussed in this slide for designing IMC controller, so it is tau s plus 1 divided by k into lambda s plus 1. I have chosen lambda to be 0.1. Remember, this is an adjustable parameter. You can choose the value of lambda accordingly. Okay. So what will happen when you increase lambda? What will happen when you decrease lambda? Both I will show in this simulation itself. Okay, so that we don't have to go into the other simulations. Mouse has somewhere start working. Hold on for a while. Okay, so the issue is rectified. So this is the controller tau s plus 1 divided by k into lambda s plus 1. So I have chosen this lambda to be 0.1, and this is the GC that I have designed. Now let us run the simulation, see the output. Okay, so this is what you are getting. So it is reaching the set point, and then I have introduced some disturbance, and that disturbance is also rejected. Now let us see how this choice of lambda will affect the response. So for that, I am trying to introduce some mismatch in the model and the plant. So let us say the actual plant dynamics is something like this: 1.1, let's say 0.9. I have introduced some mismatch. Okay. So I have chosen a very small value of lambda, 0.1. See what has happened to the response. The response is starting to be it is getting more and more oscillatory. Now, if I introduce the perturbation, increase the perturbation further, So there is more mismatch now. Now see what will happen to the response. It has become totally unstable. So now how will I stabilize this further? Like I can do it by actually choosing a higher value of lambda so that my system becomes more robust. I am choosing a higher value of lambda, let's say 0.7. Okay, see what has happened. Now again the response has become uh, far better. The response earlier it was unstable. I have increased the value of lambda from 0.1 to 0.7. So now I can say that my design is robust. Earlier I have chosen 0.1 for lambda. So during which my design of this controller was not robust, because whenever there was a mismatch, the response became unstable. But when I choose this value of lambda to be 0.7, then my design was robust to uncertainties in the plant model parameters. Okay, so this is what I want to show. So therefore, this choice of this lambda is a trade-off between performance and robustness. If you go through the slides that I have shown in the, if you go through the slide numbers here. So I have very clearly explained these things for the performance as well as the robustness. So the last 10 minutes we have, I will discuss one more topic before we wind up. So that is about Smith predictor. Now, why do we require the Smith predictor? So this Smith predictor is mainly for the processes that are having large time delay. So whenever this theta is high, especially when this theta is higher than the tau, that is the time constant. So what will happen? Let's say here, let's say in such a type of plant model, let us say this theta is very much high. Let's say here we are having 10s. Okay, and for such type of high systems with having large time delay, and if you try to use this procedure that I have shown here, that a simple direct synthesis procedure, you will obviously get an unstable response, and you can check it as well. You can try to repeat the same procedure that I have given here for a process with a large time delay, and you go for simulation, you will see an unstable response. So there is a solution for this. So what are we doing is we are trying to introduce something called Smith predictor or delay compensator in the outer loop. So here I have this GM, which is nothing but the model of the delay free part of G. Model of delay free part of G. So leave aside the theta part, and whatever is remaining, that will be the delay free part, and then the delay free part, the delay will be put here. So this type of control structure is called Smith predictor. So if you find y by r, this is the expression that you will be getting. If you use say the signal flow graph or block diagram reduction, so this will be the expression that you will be getting. But we will be designing the controller GC by by taking some ideal condition. So ideal condition is when the process and the plant are perfectly matching. But when we are doing the simulation, we will also consider some perturbation in the plant model parameters. So here I am taking that process and the plant model GM into e raised to minus theta s and G e raised to minus theta s are perfectly matching. So when these two are perfectly matching, you see here two terms will get cancelled out in the denominator in this expression for y of s by r of s, and all that will be left with will be the first two terms, that is 1 plus GC into GM. So therefore, if you look at the characteristic equation in this transfer function, it is independent of the delay. So I have taken out the delay out of the characteristic equation so that it gives me the freedom to design GC without considering theta. Okay. So this is what the Smith predictor does. And it's a small procedure, a Smith predictor design procedure I have taken. I have taken a process with large time delay, k e raised to minus theta s by tau s plus 1, where theta is large. Of course, I have taken this theta deliberately to be higher than tau as a large time delay example. Okay. So, so therefore, the closed loop transfer function will be this. And if you look at the characteristic equation, it is independent of the theta. So I am assuming a desired closed loop transfer function, repeating whatever steps that has been done here. So whatever steps direct synthesis method that I discussed here are repeated there as well, but in a different context. Now, when you repeat it, you will find that so all the e raised to minus theta s will get cancelled, and here there is no need for Pade approximation. Okay, so there is no need for Pade approximation. So you are getting a simple PI controller, and the settings of the P and I controller are in this way. Kp part is tau divided by k into lambda, and Ki part is 1 divided by k lambda. Okay, so Kp plus Ki by S. So this is the PI controller that you have derived. And you can obviously adjust these settings by adjusting lambda. So I have already shown in the previous simulation what will happen to your response when you increase lambda and what will happen to your response when you decrease lambda. So I am not going to repeat that here. So closing the unnecessary things. So I'll be focusing only on this part of the simulation. The others are meant for comparison. I have actually done some other simulations as well, so that you can compare the output of this Smith predictor with the other schemes, but that is not so much important at this time. So I have given the Kp as well as the Ki settings here. Again, I have to write the code. So here is a very simple expression, so I have directly given here. So this is my Kp, and this is my Ki. This is the Kp, and this is the this is the Kp, and this is the Ki, and this is the model. This is the GM, the GM, which is the model of the delay-free part of the Planck transfer function. So I am using the same terminologies that are used in the derivation so that you can follow it whenever you see the slide and whenever you see this simulation. So this is how the Smith predictor is simulated, and I have also applied a disturbance. Okay, so this is the output that you are getting. To make it clear how it is advantageous than the other control structures, if you see here, now here I have used a unity feedback structure. I have used the same procedure to design this unity feedback structure. And now if you look at the response of this, see, this is giving unstable response. But after introducing the Smith predictor, that has taken care of the time delay. And here my response is stable, and it is also following the set point and rejecting the load disturbance. Okay. Now let me wind up my presentation quickly. This part I have discussed. Now, if you talk in terms of the trends, as I said, there are various variants of this direct synthesis method that has been reported. IMC method has been reported. Still, you will get some papers based on IMC techniques if you go and do a good search. So, first of all, we must be able to achieve improved performance with the help of a simple control structure. So it is not always desirable to keep on adding complexity to your control structure. Okay. So as I have shown to you, Smith predictor, which is having a simple PI controller. So for stable processes, it is fine, but for integrating processes, we'll have to further modify the Smith predictor. So we'll have to further introduce some changes in the Smith predictor, which will keep on adding complexity into the Smith predictor. But we have to aim at designing a simple control structure which is yet capable of achieving include closed loop performance. Okay, and you can, instead of conventional PID controllers, you can try with some advanced controllers. So these are some of the directions in which you can do further research. Let's say you can use fractional calculus. You can design fractional order controllers in contrast to the integer order controllers that I have shown in the simulation. So these are some of the recent literatures. So this is a recent literature on PIPD control structure proposed by Sem Onat. And then this is again for optimal control. So for optimized robust control. And here, this is again a modified Smith predictor structure, the third literature. And the fourth one, again, an IMC based control structure, IMC based tuning method. So in this way, you will, and this is so here you have for PIPD, and this is for optimal control, and this is for Smith predictor, so enhanced Smith predictor, and this is again an IMC based control strategy, and this is for this is again a direct synthesis based approach, desired characteristic equation based PID controller tuning for lag dominant processes with real-time realization on level control system. They have also applied their design on a level control system. And then here, so this is a predictive control of unstable time delay process. So here they have actually incorporated the whole design process in the Z domain. Okay, so in this way you will find so many latest literature. These are not the only literature. So I am just giving you some literature, some hint